X with your hosts, John Colasani and Nick Pellman.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Newsroom X. Our first story comes from Nick Pellman. Nick?
On Tuesday morning, Alan Griffin Jr. took a shotgun and carved a path of carnage and destruction through his Detroit neighborhood, killing 3 people and wounding 2 others until Detroit police officers shot and killed him. He held about a dozen strangers at gunpoint in a Comerica branch several blocks from his home as he screamed several incoherent phrases. Griffin killed and wounded them without any signs whatsoever. Detroit Police Chief Isaiah McKinnon was quoted as saying, "The city has never, in my experience, seen anything like this. Absolutely never." We now go to Crew Team 8 in Detroit.
What exactly happened here?
He came out of the shadows behind me, and after he hit me many, many times on the head with a hammer, I had to give him my gun. You know, I've got kids.
So, as more details emerge on this attempted bank robbery...
Thank you, Crew Team 8, for that inside report. We now go to John Colasani with further news.
Thanks, Nick. We now go to Newsroom X in San Diego with Nate.
Thanks, John. In further news, 2 truckloads of illegal arms turned up in a warehouse outside of San Diego. Arms were packed in 2 cargo containers measuring 20 feet long and 8 feet wide. A spokesman from the U.S. Customs said it could be the largest cache of arms ever found in the United States. We now go up to Chris Sanders in the...
I'm here live with Officer
John Deere.
He was the first officer on the scene. So, John, how did these weapons get there?
Well, they were smuggled aboard a ship and they were brought onto a port in Long Beach, California. And yeah.
How did you know that these weapons were there?
Well, one of the warehouse workers discovered one of the cargo boxes holding the weapons, and he contacted U.S. Customs Services. Luckily, I was listening to my police scanner at the time, and I just hopped right in my Lamborghini and just sped right off down the road.
What kind of weapons did you find in this warehouse?
Well, I found a couple of M2 grinders and some of them grenade launchers.
Do you have any examples for us?
Well, we got my piece here. This is a .45 caliber handgun, very effective. It's 16 loads, it's automatic, you know. We found a couple of these here 12-gauge shotguns, Marksman, very good. And they had a couple of these. These are Russian guns, an AK-47. You know, Charlie used to use these in Vietnam. I remember this one time, you know.
Okay, we're out of time. I'm gonna have to go back to Nate Ricken on the newsroom. Nate?
Thanks, Chris, for that follow-up. Excuse me, I dropped my pen. Back to you, John.
Thanks, guys. Now in other news. Earlier today on the tour bus on the Interstate 75 near Sheboygan lost control and rolled. One victim was pinned under the bus and many others were trapped inside. The police had to use the jaws of life to remove the trapped passengers. Out of the 37 passengers on the bus, 1 is in serious condition and 5 more had minor injuries and were required to stay the night for follow-up. Others were treated and released. We now go to an amateur video which captures the horrific moment. Wasn't that scary? Now let's go to Chris Sanders in New York.
Israel moved a step closer to a shutdown with the Palestinians on Friday, saying it will begin building a new Jewish neighborhood in East Jerusalem. Israel's 18 cabinet ministers voted unanimously to go ahead with the project, despite warning from the chief of military intelligence that Palestinian protests would erupt the moment construction begins. Now, back to the home studio with Nick Pellman and John Colasani.
Thanks, Chris. Now in other news, Nick.
Yosemite National Park reopened Friday, 21 months after New Year's flood swamped lodges, campgrounds, and trails and forced the longest shutdown in the park's 107-year history. Park officials are asking Congress for help in paying for the estimated $178 million in damage. Now here's John with the state lotto numbers.
Thanks, Nick. For cash 5, it's 10, 11, 13, 23, and 30. Chino is 1, 4, 5, 7, 9, 12, 14, 17, 22, 23, 24, 27, 34, 35, 44, 54, 55, 64, 67, 71, 74, and 80. Lotto jackpot is 28 million, big game jackpot is 34 million.
Wasn't that fast? I really hope you wrote those down.
Thanks for watching Newsroom X.
This has been another edition of